Kizaru and Minato, two men that fight on the side of justice, speeding through the battlefield and being one of the most feared adversaries to go up against. With them being from mangas whose fan bases have such a heated rivalry with each other, it's no surprise that this matchup has been brought to the table. They match up perfectly with each other, being speedsters and their government's strongest assets. But what would happen if these two Goliaths faced off head to head? What's up guys, my name is Vertics, and if you enjoy videos like this, hit that subscribe button. I put out quality content like this weekly, you won't want to miss. Let's start off with the Navy Admiral's Yellow Monkey, Borsalino Kizaru. During his introduction, he blew by and no-diff members of the worst generation before sparring with Rayleigh for a bit. While both fighters weren't at their full strength, it was clear that Rayleigh couldn't keep up with Kizaru the longer the fight dragged on. Rayleigh would be in the same tier as Gaban, who we just saw annihilate Summers, a member of the Holy Knights, and Kizaru scales above this. After Sabaody, we would see Kizaru troll the entire Whitebeard fleet during the war, and took not an ounce of damage. In his interactions with Marco, he was easily overpowering him and blocking his attacks. While he and the rest of the admirals were holding back, he wasn't using the abilities that would have made the war easier for him, such as his clones or light sword. The moment Marco isn't able to regenerate due to Sea Prism cuffs, Kizaru hits him with a simple point and shoot laser, and Marco takes heavy damage from it. This just goes to show how lethal these lasers can be when his opponents aren't regenerating, as Whitebeard also suffers heavy injuries from these lasers after his short fight with Kizaru. Before this, all three of the admirals would showcase Ryo or Advanced Armament Haki when Whitebeard fired his shockwave at Marineford, only for it to be blocked. Along with this, they, and specifically Kizaru, showcase Future Sight when they morph their bodies to avoid attacks the same way we saw Katakuri use it when the ability was first being showcased. Towards the end of the war, the red-haired pirates would make a surprise appearance, and Ben Beckman would point his gun at Kizaru and tell him not to move. However, Kizaru does exactly what Beckman told him not to do, and continued his attack on Law's ship. While Ben sat there watching, like I stated, not an ounce of damage was taken during the war, and he trolled every opponent he fought. Post-time skip, he would confidently offer his assistance to go take down the alliance between Kaido and Big Mom, and while Akainu denied this, it was only because he and the other marine soldiers would be going into unknown territory with no knowledge of their numbers and abilities. During the events of Egghead, Kizaru would be more nerfed than ever during his fight with Luffy due to the mission to kill Vegapunk. However, he still displayed great AP feats when he one-shot Snake Man Luffy and sent him flying across the island. In the previous arc, Luffy fought Kaido in a weaker version of Snake Man, and it still took Kaido several attacks to put him down. Meanwhile, Kizaru is one-shotting a stronger version of that same Snake Man. He's able to have multiple scuffles with Gear 5 Luffy while wanting him to win and escape with Vegapunk. Thankfully, majority of people understand Kizaru was going through the worst time of his life on Egghead and had no heart in the fight, something we know weakens you, and while some have tried to deny this due to Kizaru being the one to put the literal nail in the coffin on Vegapunk, this was only because he was suffering after Saturn pierced and poisoned him. He's not supposed to be moving, and Sanji is flying around the battlefield with his body. The dude just couldn't bear to see his friend suffering like that. Now, where does this all scale? Well, since One Piece scaling is pretty complicated, we're going to have to chain scale. In Dressrosa, we were introduced to Chinjao, who was able to split continents to open up his treasure. This is the same Chinjao who was whooped by a nerfed Luffy, who isn't anywhere close to the strength he possessed when he fought Kizaru. Even Sai is stated to be able to achieve this exact same feat, a character that a lot of fans couldn't even name. It's safe to say that Kizaru far surpasses the continental ranges. During the Paramount War, Whitebeard was stated by Sengoku to be able to destroy the world, and it would be backed up by Oda himself. The One Piece world possesses multiple moons and is implied to be a lot larger than our own. Whitebeard having large planetary level AP makes more than enough sense, and we see characters like Akainu clash and actually overpower him during the war. While Kizaru doesn't obtain Akainu's attack potency, he is in a similar tier, and was still able to one-shot Snake Man Luffy who Kaido, someone implied to be relevant to old Whitebeard, couldn't do. Even after defeating Kaido, Luffy was still sweating when feeling Kizaru's presence, stating someone very strong is coming. This is the same Kizaru that was confident in taking on both Kaido and Big Mom, and did way better against Snake Man than Kaido did, while not wanting to even be there. Even when he's fighting Gear 5, Saturn can tell that something is off, and calls him out for slacking on the job. While we haven't seen him go all out yet, we could still figure out that Kizaru would scale around large planetary level AP. The yellow flash of the leaf is no joke either. Soldiers of other nations are told to flee on sight of Minato, but even that would do you no good. Now, there are two versions of Minato that you can use here, but it's safe to say that Edo Minato is the superior version. We know the guy was able to blitz and overpower both A and B during the Third Great Ninja War. This was Minato before he even became Hokage, and in his one-shot novel, we saw Minato overpower and push back Kurama's tailed beast bomb before he was even leading his own squad. But before this, Kurama would compare him directly to Hashirama, despite being as young as he was, and mind you, this is the full version of the Nine Tails Minato overpowered, and when you compare this to Naruto, who it took multiple Shadow clones chucking Odama Rasengans at half of the Nine Tails, you can see that this version of Minato is stronger than Naruto when he fought Pain, even before becoming the 4th Hokage. During the Nine Tails attack, he would fight with a young Obito, who got famously slammed by Minato and would go on to seal the Nine Tails inside of Naruto and himself before succumbing to his wounds. He is able to amplify his strength with Sage Mode and attack with immense speeds. But it's when Orochimaru reanimated him and the other Hokage that he unlocked his QB Chakra Mode, or KCM, allowing to use half of the Nine Tails power and coordinate with his own. The problem with this though is after Minato realized it was Obito who attacked the leaf all those years ago, he was in complete distraught. He couldn't lock in until Naruto and him did the fist bump. Before this though, anytime Minato is on panel facing Obito, he is flashbacking to how he could have prevented this from happening and blaming himself. When he was fighting Jubito with Naruto, he is able to smack away 2 of the Ten Tails arms away before being pushed back. And while he's not as strong as Naruto at this point, he's still implied to be around the same tier, and Naruto needed his help to fight Jubito before Sasuke tagged in. Unfortunately, we don't see Minato do too much in the war, but we know that Bijou bombs can threaten to destroy entire nations, and Minato is able to teleport these attacks away as well as overpower them. Since he was able to overpower these attacks as a teenager and would go on to gain way more strength over time, I would scale him around continental level in AP. Now, most people are excited to see who can hit harder, but this is one of these matchups that their speed is more prevalent than their strength. For Kizaru, we saw light speed achieved by pre-time skip Zoro back in Thriller Bark during his fight with Kuma, in which Kuma fired his pad cannons stated to move at light speed, yet Zoro was able to dodge multiple of these attacks and go on to gain much more speed as the series went on. At the start of the time skip, Luffy easily dodged the Pacifista's light speed lasers and called them too slow. FTL speeds are pretty common even all the way back at the time skip. This will all get back to Kizaru, so don't worry, but we do know that Luffy, when fighting Doflamingo, needed to resort to Gear 4 to fight him, in which even then, Doflamingo could still avoid a few of these attacks, although Luffy definitely had the speed advantage. Afterwards, he would run into Katakuri on Whole Cake Island, who was a constant issue for Luffy to hit until he unlocked both Snake Man and Future Sight. Once this happened, I still believe Katakuri had a slight speed advantage, although Luffy could still keep up and react to his attacks. Following this, Luffy would then fight Kaido several times on Wano, where he got annihilated in their first interaction. After going through heavy training arcs, Luffy is then able to not just keep up with, but outspeed Kaido on several occasions himself before defeating him. At this point, we can see Luffy is well past the speed of light, reaching massively faster than light plus speeds, and it's then here when Kizaru comes into play. As when they fought on Egghead, Kizaru was able to perceive Gear 5's attacks, and even though he was nerfed, he still blitzed the entire island to give Luffy food. Not a single soul on the premise was able to see what happened. That's just how fast Kizaru moved here, and it goes really unnoticed at times. It was made clear that Kizaru is still faster than Luffy, who coming into Egghead was already MFTL+. It's safe to say that Kizaru joins him in this department and is the fastest character we have seen in the series. Minato is most definitely the fastest non-Six Paths character. We know that he was able to blitz A and B as a Jonin. A is able to move almost at the speed of light, as stated in the data book. Years down the line, Naruto would achieve the exact same feat and be compared directly to Minato. After training over the years to become the 4th Hokage, he would be able to not only use Body Flicker faster than Tobirama, but Flying Thunder God as well. Some people have argued against Tobirama's own word, but I personally agree with it, as even though Tobirama's clone was able to react to the Truth-Seeking Orb faster than Minato did, this was only due to him dealing with the mental conflict in his head nerfing him, and the fact that Obito attached the Truth-Seeking Orb to Minato, and Tobirama was able to mark Obito earlier in the fight and use FTG with a clone. When 8th Gate Guy was fighting Madara, we saw Minato teleport in front of his Truth-Seeking Orbs and Guy before teleporting back out of the way. This is the same guy that was moving so fast that he could bend space, yet Minato is able to move in and out of his way in an instant. We know that Minato was able to react to a relativistic A as a Jonin and would have years to gain more speed and learn new abilities such as Sage Mode and QB Chakra Mode. It's safe to say that with these abilities, he can surpass the likes of Light Speed. Being an FTL being, he is most definitely the fastest non-Six Paths character. For the last section, we have both durability and endurance, a stat that Kizaru is very underrated in. During his fight with Luffy, he was able to block all of Snake Man's attacks with ease and tank multiple Gear 5 attacks. Not only do the Marines state they can't find wounds on Kizaru, but at the end of the arc, we would see him unscathed when he yelled at Akainu. Luffy is coming off of overpowering Kaido and able to coat his attacks in both Advanced Armament and Conqueror's Haki. He does use ACOG more frequently in his fight with Kaido, but it's not like Kizaru doesn't get hit with a few of these attacks himself and is able to endure them a lot better. When Luffy uses Ryu, he is internally damaging the opponent, being a form of durability negation, yet Kizaru is still able to take these blows. When he got hit with Stargun, this is the moment Saturn is puzzled why Kizaru is even down in the first place. Unless you were reading the arc with a blindfold on, you would know that Vegapunk is the entire reason Kizaru didn't try at all when fighting Luffy. It's clear that despite Luffy being able to deliver powerful Haki-coded attacks, it's still not enough to seriously put Kizaru down. I would put him right where his AP is, at large planetary level durability. Minato, unlike Kizaru, doesn't have a perfect defense to combat his speed. During the war, Obito's attacks are easily tearing him apart. He doesn't have really any tank feats unfortunately, and even though he was pierced by Kushina when Kurama was taking over, this was only because he couldn't let go in order to seal the Ninetales. Speaking of, during his final moments, he would endure the wound the Ninetales made long enough to seal half of Kurama inside of both Naruto and himself. While he would succumb to his wounds, he would still live long enough to perform the sealing jutsu. He does have Sage Mode, which drastically increases his durability, but this mode only lasts him so long. I would put his durability around country level, being that he isn't the most durable character in the verse. Well, if you've been following, it's pretty clear that Kizaru has the advantage. His stats simply outscale Minato's, and unfortunately for the 4th Hokage, he doesn't have any real chance at winning here. The only real win con I could imagine would be using something like the Reaper Death Seal on Kizaru. However, this would include him having to tag Kizaru in the first place. Now, as for the Logia and tangibility, you've heard me say it before, and I'll say it again. When cross-verse battles are up for discussion, verse equalization is applied to allow the verses to interact freely with each other. Still though, even with this in play, Minato wouldn't be able to tag nor damage Kizaru. His attack potency stops at Continental, potentially lower if you want to downscale him. And this is nowhere near enough to take down the likes of Kizaru, who tanked multiple large planetary level attacks from Luffy that internally damaged him due to Ryu. Kizaru can also match Minato's clones with his own and one-shot all of them. He could also use his sword and laser beams to pierce Minato from distance, slowing him down. Even still though, I believe Kizaru could blitz and kick the shit out of Minato like he did to Drake. What makes it even harder for Minato to land a hit on Kizaru than it already would be is the fact Kizaru can look into the future and morph his body to avoid attacks. Minato is one of my favorite characters in all of Naruto, but he just doesn't stack up to the power the Navy's fastest admiral Kizaru possesses. Well, that's it for you guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and leave a like. It really helps with the algorithm and is very appreciated. Shout out to Wildfire Matt for the thumbnail. He makes quality thumbnails, and if you would like some of your own, hit him up on Twitter, link in the description, as well as my Twitter at Vertics_ for more of my takes. And without further ado, you guys can get out of here.